Peace be with you, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor. Very grateful to have you here. And today's video is going to be a full review of a fragrance, and I will follow the structure of introducing the fragrance, talking about what year it was released and who the perfumer is, moving into the major notes and accords that stand out to me, comparing it to a few other things in my collection that I think are in the same ballpark, and then talking about some real-world examples of fragrances that this can translate to everyday smells. After that, I'm going to move into taste, texture, and tone, try to translate the fragrance a little bit in terms of the other five senses, moving into projection, performance, and popularity, how long the fragrance lasts for, whether or not it pulls compliments, and then talking about who, when, and where, what kind of person I could see wearing it, what seasons this works best for, and what time of the day and occasions, and then finally give my rating out of 10 and talk about the best place and best price to pick this one up at. So, fragrance we're going to be talking about today is Iris NAZARENA from Aedes de Venustas. This is a 2013 release, and Ralph Schweiger is the perfumer. Don't have anything else in my collection from his portfolio to talk about today, so I'm going to move into the notes and accords. I'll put the full note breakdown on the screen here, but the four that really stand out to me are a very carrot-like iris, a little bit cold, cool, but still sweet and earthy iris, moving into a leather, woods, and incense. So those are the four major players for me that I get off the top, as well as I feel, although not listed, a subtle hidden violet leaf note that is adding both a little bit of a wet, dewy quality to this fragrance, as well as a slight tart, sweet quality. So like a little bit of like a candied violet that kind of gives off a berry-like sweetness, almost like a Smarties candy. So those are the major notes that stand out to me. If I had to compare this to another fragrance in my collection, I would say that this is a little bit more of a masculine-leaning Iris from Hermes, which also has a very cold, cool, carrot-like, earthy iris note in there, which makes this and the Hermes offering distinct from a lot of the other irises on the market, which are a lot more powdery, makeup, baggy, lipsticky. But these are earthy, cold, cool, and carrot-like. And this one, because of the leather, incense, and woods, I find it to be a lot more masculine leaning than the Hermes. And although it is more masculine leaning because of that, this is still very much a unisex fragrance in my opinion. And then if I had to compare this to some everyday smells, it somewhat kind of smells like opening up a pack of latex gloves. There's this little bit of a dusty, powdery coating on the gloves, and you take it out and it's got this latexy quality that the leather in here reminds me a lot of. This also is very reminiscent of the I'm thinking of going through a scrapbook with a bunch of Polaroid photos on the top of some paper, and then there's just a little bit of this latex sheen, a little bit of an almost inky quality from the Polaroids coming in. This has a very dusty, dry, papery texture to it, I want to say, so like a scrapbook with maybe a humidifier going in the background and a lot of house plants. Just a very simple, papery, inky, nostalgic, a little bit wet in the air, but still green and nature filled. A lot of this sort of imagery comes to mind with this fragrance. Another image that comes to mind is a silver lining on a cloud. So this has a very cloudy-like body to it, I want to say. The smoky incense quality commingling with some of the cold, cool qualities, both from the iris, and then there's a juniper berry in here that I think lends a little bit to a cold, cool quality. And like I said, I think a hidden violet leaf that gives it a little bit of humidity. This reminds me a lot of wearing a little cloud, definitely an aura type fragrance surrounding you, and a silver lining is something that comes to mind with this. Also, just the idea of the Patronus spell from Harry Potter. If you're familiar with that series, it's somewhat of like a ghostly avatar of some totem animal in nature, like a spirit animal. This kind of shimmering, ghostly quality that this fragrance has to offer in its silvery tone remind me a lot of that concept. Now, moving into taste, texture, and tone, this is very much a bittersweet and smoky fragrance. There's a little bit of a savory element from the incense and woods that kind of gives it a smoky flavor. And then it's bittersweet because it's got that herbal, earthy, dry kind of leafy sensation, very herbal quality that makes it a bit bitter, and then there's that carrot-like sweetness in here, so it's not very much a sweet fragrance at all, but it still has enough to satisfy an overall harmonized, balanced palette, I want to say. And then the texture, like I said, I've talked a little bit about it. It has a latex style texture as its dominant appearance, at least to me. That leather in here gives it a very much a latexy quality. It's very dusty and dry. It reminds me of an autumn woods because of all of the moisture being sucked out of the air at the time. Even though this does have a little bit of a humid quality, it reminds me of a fog blanketing in autumn wood. So you get that dryness of all the foliage, but there's just this hovering, lingering cloud of water vapor. Vaporous is a good description of this fragrance's texture or body. It's very much, it's not quite smoky, but a lot more vaporous, kind of like something coming out of a humidifier, is like I would describe this one. Also very papery. It's very thin, flat, smooth, but dry at the same time. So it's got a papery quality, a dusty quality, latexy, and cloud-like vaporous. These are some of the best textures I could use to describe this fragrance. The tonality, I've said before, it's very cold, cool. Silver is another color tone that I would say really is evocative of this fragrance, as well as iridescence, somewhat of like what you would imagine a pearl to have. It's kind of this opaque white with this shimmering rainbow that kind of gives an overall impression of like a light pink or a purple. So a very iridescent style fragrance is how I would describe this as well. It has this very sterile feeling about it, very clean and cleanly, perfect for an office. Reminds me a little bit of being in like a doctor's office or a hospital because of that both latex sensation, the coldness, and the very sterile feeling. The quality of ingredients in here are very much very natural, very easy to wear, not syrupy or synthetic at all. So it's very high quality in terms of the ingredients, and then it also has a slight glimmering, shimmering, glittery quality to it in terms of just the overall vibe and the color that it evokes for me. So like glitter, like the arts and crafts glitter, but also kind of like a shimmering on the top of like a water. It's just got this very shimmery, glittery type feeling to it. Again, that's why it somewhat reminded me of that Patronus element in Harry Potter. Now, in terms of projection and performance, I get about a half an hour to an hour where this projects very intimately. It's very much a soft spoken fragrance, definitely not an attention getter. So it's something that I would wear as a signature or to the office, but definitely is not an attention grabbing fragrance, maybe not even like a date night fragrance. It's really one that I tend to wear for myself a lot of the times. But the longevity is great. I get a full work days full of 8 hours sitting on my skin, and it does go through a little bit of development. It's somewhat linear, but it has a nice opening that's a little bit more cool and cold, and it gets a little bit warmer and more woody as it dries down, and a little bit more fruity as well. Like I talked a little bit about that violet, candied violet that kind of starts to come out and gives a almost berry type support to the leather in here. And as far as popularity, again, it doesn't project all that well, so I don't think people tend to smell it on you all that often, and for that reason, I think it lacks in the compliment department. So I've never received any compliments on this one. And in terms of who, when, and where, unisex for sure. Like I said, it's leans a little bit masculine, but I think that anybody could pull this off. I think it's for somebody that's a little bit more mature, so 30 and up, I think would be able to rock this one. Somebody that's a little bit more introverted, artistically inclined, somebody that is a little bit more reserved, but also happy, easygoing, and polite. I think getting back to more Harry Potter references, Luna Lovegood and her father were two characters that I think remind me of this fragrance a little bit because of the silvery tone. Also the slightly artistic disposition, but the happy-go-lucky demeanor in conjunction with that. I think this fragrance does a good job of articulating that sort of personality. And then spring and autumn, I think, are the best times for this fragrance. It's very much a transitional wear for me. And rainy days in particular is when I really like to gravitate towards this one. Like I said, it reminds me of the silver lining of a cloud, so it matches perfectly with the landscapes that I get during rainy season. And because of the dry quality in here, I like to wear this one more in the autumn than in the spring, but both seasons are really great for this one in my opinion. Summer nights as well, it does have a nice little easy feeling about it, light and airy, breezy cloud to it. So summer nights and rainy days, I think, are great for this one. And then the events that I would wear it at, like I said, signature, office, casual, rainy day. These are all some of the top picks for me in terms of when I'm going to be reaching for it. And if I had to give it a rating out of 10, personally, the scent profile for me is a solid 9, but because of its intimate projection, lack of compliments, and the pricey price tag, it being just about $250, not found at discounters, so you pretty much have to buy it full retail. The high price and the lack of compliment factor, I'm going to bring this one down to an 8.5 out of 10. And let me know if you tried this one in the comment section down below. I highly recommend sampling the entire house of Aedes de Venustas. They've got some really high quality offerings, very unique and niche scent profiles, and a lot of good perfumers under their belt, such as Alberto Marias and Bertrand de Duchefort. So really appreciate you sticking with me to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.